So this is the new ambassador of America to Israel. And I speak a lot about the spiritual roots of what's going on with Israel and the war in the Middle East and how it represents really the deepest spiritual destiny of this world. But one would, think that a lot of politicians and people that are commentators in this subject don't really seem to appreciate that. Ambassador Mike Huckabee is someone who does. I want to show you a clip of this remarkable speech he gave, which shows that he understands that Israel's battles and Israel's fight for survival and Israel's place as the Jewish people's eternal homeland is divine in nature. Have a watch of this, because this is coming from America's ambassador to Israel. Have a watch.
There's a force in our world today that has rejected the notion that there is a God who created the earth and the heavens. There is a force that does not believe that God has chosen a people and a land. There is a force of people who have worshipped the created rather than the creator. There is a force of people who, because they reject the law of God, they reject the God of the law. And if you hate God, you will hate the people who He has chosen as His own. Anti-Semitism is irrational to a logical mind, but it makes sense when you recognize that this is not a political battle, it is not an economic battle, it is not an educational battle, it is not a geopolitical fight. This is not a battle that is horizontal, the left to the right, the liberals and the conservatives, the Democrats and the Republicans. It is not horizontal. The battle is vertical. This battle is between heaven and hell. This battle is between good and evil. This battle is between a God and people who believe they are their own gods. And that is why we must fight anti-Semitism, and we must stand with the Jewish people. There is
really remarkable stuff. I mean, to imagine, I can't really imagine previous American ambassadors, although I suppose David Freeman maybe actually would agree with this, but historically, pre-Trump administration, saying this kind of stuff. Now, I do want to unpack one thing he said, however, because of course he is right that this ultimately is spiritual in nature, and that people are against this. If you're against the Jewish people's right to be in their God-given homeland, and that is an ungodly cause. But the one thing I actually disagree with him, and this may surprise viewers actually as well, is that, yes, being against Israel is ungodly in nature. However, this sense that it all comes from something that's deep-seated, hellish in nature, and it's about people that hate God. I'm not so sure that's always the case. Because I think a lot of people in the Middle East who are hostile to Israel, they don't think they hate God. They're deeply religious people. They just believe that it is God's will that, Islam is the new chosen vessel of God's will. And the Jews, by re-establishing their homeland, they kind of... Mike Huckabee is clearly in the camp of Christians who acknowledge that this is an incredible act of divine grace, and it shows that God always maintained his covenant with the Jewish people. But what if, actually, you say that, no, our covenants, our new religion is the truth, and God has rejected the Jews? You basically have to look at Israel and say, well, it has to be destroyed. And so that's kind of what is going on, and that's what's been fueling this conflict for nearly 100 years. But I think that if we can educate people, particularly in the Middle East, who are deeply religious, if we can, as a Jewish people, express and articulate that our right to be in the land is not based on politics or international law, even our indigeneity to the land, it's based on divine right. If we express that and we say, no, we really are the Jewish people of old, and God really has maintained his covenant with us, and the Torah still remains the truth. So I'm hopeful that if we just speak the truth clearly, it will resonate. The truth has power. And Mike Huckabee clearly gets the truth, and he understands it clearly, but I would just say that his perhaps pessimism for those who don't appreciate it. In some cases, some people are just too poisoned to be changed. Their minds are too poisoned. But I think in many cases, the whole point of Israel is that God placed it in a very religious-centric zone, I think, for a reason. I think part of the, don't necessarily want to say test, but what God is trying to bring out of us now is to really come into our own in terms of our chosen destiny as a people. And he's surrounding us with a deeply religious region. And the reason is, one of the reasons is, it should push us to turn back to him and articulate that as being our raison d'etre, our reason to be. We, for too long, as people doing Hasbara and Israeli activism, have been justifying Israel and Israel's existence and kind of dancing to tunes of Western morality and Western standards. But we're not a Western nation. We're not even in a Western region. We're in the Middle East. And we're in a deeply religious region. And we should act as such. Now, before I finish, I just want to let you know about a new YouTube channel that's established, and they've just created this new video unpacking the inside story of Mossad's incredible pager operation, where they managed to target all these Hezbollah operatives, minimize non-combatant casualties, and it was just the most unprecedented, incredible James Bond-esque operation. And this video will show you the inside story, not just of that, but of other Mossad operations as well. Have a watch the trailer, and then you can click on the video to watch the full thing.
Imagine you live in a country the size of New Jersey or Wales, and on your border there are 50,000 armed militants with 150,000 rockets ready to destroy you. What do? You might turn to the ancient Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu, who said all warfare is based on deception through espionage. Offer the enemy bait to lure him. On the 17th of September 2024, an enemy took the bait. A stunning undercover attack took place in Lebanon, targeting thousands of members of the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah. Who could have carried out such an unprecedented operation, and why? It was a sunny afternoon in Lebanon, a country on Israel's northern border. At 3:30 p.m, an astonishing attack from an invisible enemy shocked the country. Over 3,000 Hezbollah operatives received a message on their pages. As soon as they opened the message, a tiny hidden plastic explosive was ignited and the pages exploded. This is the stunning story of Mossad's insane operation.